Well, in this little video, we're going to have a look at the logic of profit maximization in a little bit more general case than the price-taking firm. So I'm calling this profit maximization in the case of the price-making firm. That is a firm where the firm has some market power, meaning it has some choice over the price. In other words, it can make the price in the market. It doesn't just take it as given. So in that particular case, as we've seen, the marginal revenue is not just the market price, like it was in the case of the price-taking firm. No, it has a different relationship, and here's the relationship illustrated, here's the demand curve, here's marginal revenue. We've gone through the logic of that already. So what price should the firm charge, and how much output should it produce? I think the way to think about this problem is to break it down into two steps. First, what we're going to do is figure out how much output the firm will produce, what the profit maximizing level of output is, and then we have to figure out what the market will bear, what's the highest price that we can charge for that output. So let's just do those two steps one at a time. Well, the logic that we've seen earlier of comparing marginal revenue and marginal cost still holds here. So I've just, in this case, imagined a situation where the marginal cost of production is constant. Suppose the firm can produce output for $5 per unit. So that's how much it's adding to costs as it's producing each extra unit. How much is it adding to revenues when it sells various quantities of output? Well, our demand curve is telling us what total revenues are ultimately going to be, and therefore how those revenues are going to change as the firm, if the firm were to lower its price and were to sell different quantities of output. So we can see that initially, if the firm were to produce, say, a relatively low level of output like this one, if it produced another unit of output and sold it, it would add this much to revenues, and it would only add this much to costs. Obviously, a profit maximizing firm should increase its rate of output if it finds itself in that situation. How far should it increase its output? Well, obviously, this far, where the addition to its revenues is just counterbalanced by the addition to its costs. At any rate of output less than this, call it Q star for the profit maximizing level of output, the firm can increase its profits because if it produces a little bit more output, it's adding more to its revenues than to its costs. That's why down here I've illustrated profits as rising all the way up to this point. And then if the firm were to produce at a greater rate of output, it'd be adding more to its costs than it would be to its revenues in order to sell all of that output. We can figure that out from the demand curve. So that's the basic logic. The firm is going to find the level of output where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. That's the basic logic. But that's only step one, because, as I said at the beginning, the second step is to figure out what price should we charge. Well, if this is the amount of output that we're going to produce, clearly what we'd like to do is charge the highest possible price for that. The demand curve, sort of by definition, just tells us what is the highest price that people are willing to pay, and they will still purchase this total amount, which I've called Q star here. Well, that's just this price right here. Suppose that's $8 in my example. So that'd be the profit maximizing price. One mistake that students often make is to forget to look at the demand curve. We get so fixated on this marginal revenue equals marginal cost idea that students just want to charge $5 for this output when the information here plainly tells us that we can get away with charging $8. So charging $5 is going to be a good way not to maximize profits. So remember, we want to charge what the market will bear. The demand curve is going to tell us that. So just to sum up then, the price making firm is going to maximize profits by applying the basic logic of marginal revenue equals marginal cost to figure out how much it's going to produce. Then it uses the demand curve to tell it how it should price that product.